They discovered the shocking things you must abandon for spiritual freedom. Few knew what truly happened that night on the edges of the wilderness, whispers of deep secrets swirling in the air. Darkness draped over the camp like a heavy cloak, every flicker of firelight casting eerie shadows. That was the night the earth trembled beneath their feet, a sign to all who dared to witness the unexplainable. Moses stood at the foot of Mount Sinai, heart pounding, breath catching like a snare. The sky churned above him, filled with roiling clouds, as if the heavens themselves were holding back a storm of divine revelation. The people trembled, their eyes wide with fear, confusion, anticipation. What could be coming? What awaited them atop that mountain? Each moment felt stretched, time crawled as whispers filled the night with tales of the unknown. This was not just any encounter. This was a pivotal moment in history, 400 years of slavery sewn into the fabric of their beings, escaping from the chains of Egypt. The Israelites felt the weight of their past full of oppression, miracles, and unanswered prayers. They had seen astonishing wonders, plagues that shook the land, waters that parted at their feet. Yet facing the mountain now, they felt something raw, something much heavier, tension that could ignite at any moment. Suddenly, a crack split the silence, sharp and piercing. The ground shook, sending ripples of unease through the crowd. Gasps erupted, voices pitched high under the pressure of fear. What was it? Could it be punishment? Could it be deliverance? No one knew for certain. All they felt was the chill creeping up their spines, the sting of uncertainty. Moses' mind raced, burdened with the weight of leadership. Abandon the past. The familiar chains of their old lives clung tight. Could they let go of their fears, their doubts, their very identities? The mystery entwined them all like a spider's web, each strand pulling tighter, ensnaring the heart with dread and wonder. And there it was, the voice of God, echoing in the silence. Steady, booming, yet intimate. Each command was a call to leave behind what no longer served them. Thou shalt not. It rang clear, yet the questions throbbed in hearts. What would it take to be free? What burdens were too precious to lose? The flames of the bush flickered, illuminating faces twisted in shock, torn between fear and hope. As the ground quaked beneath them, who would emerge unscathed? Who could truly abandon the very things that tethered them to their history? The mystery loomed heavy as they prepared to confront their fates. What lessons awaited them through the veil of uncertainty? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the trembling of the earth settled into an eerie stillness, a collective breath was drawn among the assembled people. Their eyes, alight with a mixture of fear and yearning, turned back to Moses, who stood, a vessel of divine will, at the mountain's base. Each command echoed in their hearts, stirring memories of bondage and hope. Yet beyond the shouts and whispers, questions hung in the air like the scent of rain before a storm, questions that begged for answers, and answers that seemed as distant as the mountain's peak shrouded in clouds. Moses raised his voice, steady yet reverberating with emotion. Hear, O Israel. The Lord our God speaks, and what is said must be held as sacred. What he commands is not merely law, it is a path to freedom. But as every eye focused intently on him, a part of Moses questioned if all could truly hear, if all could understand the depths of these commands. The wind swirled quietly, and in one heart, a woman named Miriam felt the pull of her spirit. She was a singer, a storyteller, and she understood that every word from the mountain was laden with more than mere command. It was a summons to transformation. She recalled the songs they had sung under heavy burdens, songs that had been woven through generations. Would this be a new song born from the ashes of suffering? Would the sounds of freedom replace the cries of despair? Yet inside her, a fear nagged. What if the new truth spoken from beyond the clouds required more than she was willing to give? She pondered the price of freedom. Would it mean losing parts of herself, parts that had held her firm in the remnants of captivity? Would she be welcomed into this new vision or asked to step aside? As darkness began to fade with the first light of dawn, the voice of God resumed, inviting them not only to listen but to surrender to new possibilities. You are to be a chosen people, set apart in love and obedience. Yet, what is bound within your hearts today shall be tested. The people gathered closer, breaths held tight, every soul aware that the storm of revelation could break into a deluge of change. They saw in Moses' eyes the gravity of the moment, a moment when choices would plunge them into unknown depths. Collective memories of fear twisted within, the warmth of past comforts clashing with the fierce illumination of what was possible. Could they embrace the fear of the void, or would they cling to the known chains of their previous lives? The echoes of the past snaked their way through the crowd, determining loyalties to Pharaoh and hardship, while an offering of hope dangled just out of reach. As the final crackling voice of thunder heralded the daybreak, an intense silence fell. Now came the moment of reckoning. The air felt charged, electric with the promise of what lay ahead. What would occur next would not just echo in their stories, it would shape their very identities, their destinies. Moses raised his hands above, inviting them all to respond, heart beckoning to heart. Would they dare to abandon their fears to tread the path of divine calling? Or would they retreat into the shadows of familiarity? Each face reflected a kaleidoscope of thoughts, some ready to step forth into the wild unknown, others clutching tightly to shadows of the past. As dawn broke upon the mountain, the questions grew stronger in the hearts of the Israelites. What truth would emerge from the thundering voice above? Would they be prepared to embrace the unknown, or would they let the weight of their history clutch them in despair? And in this pivotal moment of collective choice, who among them would rise to the occasion, and who would remain bound by invisible chains? As the sun rose higher, rays piercing through the lingering mist, the atmosphere around the mountain was thick with anticipation. The Israelites stood huddled together, their breaths mingling in the crisp morning air, a testament to the tension that hung like an unseen shroud. They sensed that a pivotal moment was upon them, a moment to transform questions into commitments. Moses, with his strong hands raised, seemed almost anointed by the sunlight itself, and each glimmer reflecting off the rough stones of the mountain carried the weight of expectation. The wind shifted, almost as if coaxing the crowd into a deeper awareness, and he began to speak again, his voice unwavering. What is spoken here today is not just for your ears, but a seed planted within your spirits. To follow the path of the Lord requires a shedding, letting go of your old selves. Miriam felt her heart race, the gravity of Moses' words wrapping around her like a band. She could see it in the faces of her people, hope mingled with the haunting remnants of despair, a battle of ancient burdens against the dawn of possibility. Her fingers itched to grasp the moment and transform it into song, yet fear churned within her. What old songs would she have to silence to give life to the new? What pieces of her history would she need to surrender? As if answering her unasked question, the divine voice crescendoed from the mountaintop, a grand symphony of thunder and delight. You are called to abandon the idols of your past, the fears that have kept you chained, the disbelief that whispers you are unworthy. The boldness of the command echoed through the valley, shaking the ground beneath their feet, awakening something deep within. The voice carried not just the weight of authority, but a tenderness that beckoned the fragile heart of the people. One man stepped forward, his feet carried the weight of many burdens, the settlement of fear, grief, and despair. But what if we cannot bear the cost, Moses? What if our hands are too weak to let go? His voice trembled, revealing a flicker of vulnerability beneath the armor of defiance. Moses lowered his hands and looked into the eyes of his people, searching for the truths hidden behind their fears. It is in our moments of weakness that we discover strength unseen. To abandon that which does not serve you is a step towards healing, a journey toward wholeness. With these words, he invited them to share their own struggles, their fears laid bare among a community yearning for liberation. Within the throng, conversations erupted, hearts began to thrum with both hope and trepidation. Miriam glimpsed her brother Aaron among the gathering, his brow furrowed as he grappled with his thoughts. She approached him, her spirit ignited with the fervor of possibility. Do you feel it, Aaron? The pull towards a new way. What would you leave behind to embrace our journey? Aaron gazed thoughtfully into the horizon, where the distant mountains mirrored the challenges they faced. Miriam, it is hard to speak. I have lived my whole life in the shadow of fear. To step into the light is a daunting call. Miriam reached for his hand. Then our first song must be one of honesty, a ballad for the forsaken, a melody that transforms fear into courage. As others gathered, sharing their own burdens and dreams, the realization spread that they would not embark on this journey alone. The fears that had silenced them began to take shape and speak, resonating in a chorus of shared humanity, connecting each heart together. In this moment of vulnerability and authenticity, the voice from above rumbled once more, urging them to leave behind the chains of fear and know that you are destined for greatness. But still, the question remained palpable, lingering like a haunting echo through the crowd. What must they abandon to truly be free? As they peered into one another's eyes, a silent agreement formed, a commitment to face the uncertainties together. Yet doubt hung in the air, a reminder of what was at stake. Would they truly gather strength in each other to shed their past? With voices lifted in tentative harmony, they dared to sing a song of hope, but a deeper truth remained. Beneath the yearning was a question yet to be answered: what pieces of themselves were they willing to relinquish for the promise of a new life? And could the power of community pave the way to spiritual freedom? As the harmonies of hope swirled in the air, a reverberating silence fell over the crowd, broken only by the subtle rustle of leaves in the mountain breeze. Each heart beat in unison, yet inside, a tempest brewed a storm of thoughts and doubts, all wrestling for clarity. Miriam caught Aaron's gaze once more, where a flicker of reluctance flickered. She sensed that beneath his burdened exterior lay uncharted terrain waiting to be explored. "Moses has challenged us," she whispered, her voice a soft ember among the stillness. "We must uncover what we are truly clinging to. It is not merely our past, but the very identities we have built from those chains." Aaron nodded, his brow creased. "But how do we truly discern what weighs us down and what may elevate us?" Just as he spoke, a fly buzzed around them, interrupting their contemplation with its careless dance. Miriam watched it, momentarily entranced, as it soared between their faces. The creature, trapped in its aimless wandering, lived within the confines of its own tiny existence. A sensation washed over her. How many of them, precious people, were like that fly? Flitting from one worry to another, forever caught in the familiar, afraid to venture beyond what they knew. She turned back to Aaron, inspired by the metaphor. "It is easy to feel we are too small to make a difference, to see only our fears instead of the vastness before us. We must help one another to uncover those places we keep hidden." With a newfound resolve, Miriam called for attention, her voice ringing clear as a bell. "Gather near, my people. We are about to embark on a journey, but first, we must brave the depths of our souls. What fears press upon you? What sins have you allowed to anchor you to the past? Let us brave this together, for clarity comes when the darkness is named. One by one, as the sun continued to climb, they hesitated, but then slowly began to share their burdens. A mother spoke of her anxiety for her children, afraid of the wilderness that lay ahead. A young man confessed his deep-seated anger towards those who had wronged him, chains he clung to for purpose. Others shared their guilt, their doubts, regrets, and dreams, deferred, their voices rising and falling like waves against the shore. Each story wove the tapestry of their collective pain, revealing the vulnerability embedded in their spirits. Yet amidst the confessions, a heaviness brewed. The thoughts of what was to come began to mirror the uncertainties in their hearts. Moses observed, nodding as he intuitively understood this was all part of the process, a vital examination of their spirits. Suddenly, an unexpected sound echoed from the mountain top, piercing through their gathering, sharp and commanding. It was the same voice that had called them to shed their pasts. "Know this, my people, freedom is not merely the absence of chains, but the courage to face the source of those chains." The words surged through them, igniting a flame of realization. Freedom was an active choice, not a passive occurrence. It demanded awareness and accountability, an understanding of the true nature of the shackles they bore. Miriam felt emboldened, her voice clear as she spoke anew. "This journey requires that we peel back the layers, to confront and conquer our fears. It is not enough to utter our pain, we must lean into it, learn from it, and ultimately let it transform us. What can we relinquish today to gain strength for tomorrow?" A silence followed her proclamation, thick with contemplation. Each heart pulsed with the weight of her question. Stripped of their distractions, the Israelites looked toward one another, bonds strengthening as they faced the dark corners of their own souls. What truths might they unearth if they embraced vulnerability together? At that moment, Miriam saw it in their eyes, the glimmer of shared purpose and potential. Where once doubt lingered like a shadow, the spark of resilience began to illuminate their path. Still, as they prepared to take the next step in their journey, a lingering uncertainty hung in the air. The echoes of the mountains whispered a truth left unexamined. Could they really transform the weight of their past into the wings of their future? What sacred sacrifices would they ultimately face to rise above the chains of yesterday? And would the promise of spiritual freedom be worth the work required to attain it? As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a golden glow upon the gathered Israelites, the atmosphere shifted. Their stories and confessions hung in the air, tangible threads connecting each heart to the other. The warmth of the sun was gentle, yet it felt inadequate to dispel the shadows of doubt that lingered. Moses surveyed the multitude, suddenly aware that the risk of vulnerability opened not only their souls but also the door to deeper revelations. With a wave, he beckoned them closer as they formed a circle, a living tapestry of shared burdens. "What you have shared is only the beginning," he began. "To witness our fears is to invite the profound questions that lie beneath. Freedom demands that we delve deeper, for what we seek is not merely strength but transformation. Miriam stood beside him, her heart swelling with both trepidation and hope. We must ask ourselves, what do we truly need to abandon? Our fears? Our anger? Or is it something even more profound we must relinquish, perhaps a version of ourselves we have long held dear? Her gaze swept across the faces before her, each one reflecting a different struggle, a unique journey toward healing. As murmurs of agreement swept through the crowd, a soft voice emerged from the back. It was a man named Caleb, whose countenance bore the marks of hardship. What if we are not just bound by our choices, but also by the expectations placed upon us? Can we find freedom from the roles others say we must play? Gasps rippled through the assembly. Miriam's heart quickened. Could it be that not only their painful past, but also the weight of others' expectations held them captive? The idea took root in the hearts of those present, each one turning it over as if it were a precious stone. Moses nodded gravely, sensing the profound truth in Caleb's words. You speak well. We are often shaped by what we believe we must be. Yet, remember, our true identities are defined not by expectation, but by the essence of our calling, our visions of what is possible. The air thickened with anticipation. What mysteries could lie beyond these chains of societal constructs? As the gathering pondered these insights, the sky darkened unexpectedly, and a cool breeze rustled through the trees, as though the universe itself were leaning in to hear their discourse. Miriam felt the shift acutely. Instinctively, she recalled the story of how her ancestors had stood at the edge of the sea, trapped between the waters and their pursuers, seeking answers in a time of uncertainty. Was this gathering not a similar moment of reckoning? Every journey requires a threshold, an abyss, she murmured, feeling the connection to the shared histories of her people. What if we must face the depth of our own fears, the shadows that whisper we are inadequate, that we are meant for less? What if the true challenge lies in embracing the power of who we are beneath those layers of expectation? A profound silence enveloped them as they contemplated her words. The prospect of confronting not only personal fears but the limitations imposed by others felt daunting. Yet beneath the fear simmered an undeniable yearning for liberation. In that moment, a realization swept over them: to drop their burdens, they must first unmask the truths they had long hidden even from themselves. All that we suppress cannot be escaped, it will confront us, Moses said softly, his voice resonating with a deep understanding. True freedom lies in acknowledging our fears and our desires, in facing them with courage and community. This journey is not for the faint of heart but for those who dare to uncover the depth of their own souls. The collective breath held, waiting for the next words that might ignite their spirits. Miriam felt a stirring within her. She knew they stood on the brink of something monumental. We are called to face our past, our present, and dare to dream a future unburdened. What shadows shall we illuminate together? What identities must we cast aside to be reborn? As the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting long shadows that danced on the ground, the Israelites felt the weight of their choices hanging palpably in the air. The fire of possibility kindled in their hearts, yet questions loomed unanswered. Would they support each other in this daunting endeavor? And at what cost would their pursuit of spiritual freedom manifest? Would they find the courage to journey through the darkness or stay confined by the light cast by the expectations of others? The wind whispered through the trees, a gentle reminder that change was upon them. As the sun began to sink, spilling hues of orange and purple across the sky, it lit a path through the encircling crowd. With each breath, the atmosphere filled with unspoken fears and quiet resolve. Moses felt the weight of their anticipation, the desire to transcend the tight confines of their lives pressing against him like the narrowing egress of the sea before the waves broke. Let us not just ponder our burdens, he urged, voice steady yet infused with urgency. Let us begin to reveal them, to speak them out loud. For in naming that which binds us, we may find the strength to release it. The Israelites looked at one another, hesitant yet drawn to what they might discover. Each heart thrummed with an equal measure of worry and hope. Who would be the first to break the silence, to give voice to the fears that had long been relegated to the recesses of their minds? After what felt like an eternity, Miriam stepped forward. I will go first, she declared, courage mingling with vulnerability. For too long I have worn the mask of the strong leader, a role crafted by others' expectations of me. Yet, inside I often feel overwhelmed, knowing that I am not only responsible for my own heart, but for the hearts of many. She drew a deep breath. I must abandon this fear of inadequacy and allow myself to be seen not as perfect but as real. The burden of others' expectations cannot be my identity. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, absorbing her honesty. A young woman named Oda, emboldened by Miriam's words, stepped forward. I too am afraid of judgment, of stepping outside the roles assigned to me. I have been quiet, meant to be an observer, but inside I long to sing, to dance, to be fully alive. I must let go of the chains of silence that have bound my spirit. Her declaration sparked a wave of echoes throughout the circle. One by one, they began to share their most intimate struggles, the fears of failure, the weight of familial duty, the lingering shadows of shame and resentment toward those who had wronged them. With each confession, their burdens felt lighter, as if the act of unveiling the hidden depths of their souls was a release of the pent-up tension within. As the darkness deepened around them, old perceptions began to fade like nightfall. Caleb, who had initially broached the subject of expectations, spoke next. I realize now that my burden was not solely the expectations of others but my unwillingness to explore my own desires and dreams. I have become a mirror, reflecting the ambitions of those around me instead of pursuing my own calling. I must abandon this fear of being misunderstood in order to step into my own light. A wave of fervor swept through the group now, a momentum carrying them toward deeper revelations. Each confession not only drew them closer but also illuminated the shadows that had lurked unseen. In unity, they began to see the stronger threads connecting their hearts, a movement yearning for authenticity and true spiritual liberation. As the gathering swelled with genuine connection, Moses sensed the ground shifting beneath them. Remember, my people, he cautioned, in this journey of discovery, we may encounter echoes from the past. Be mindful, not all memories will be easy to confront. Some burdens may seem lighter than they truly are and others heavier. Are we prepared for the scope of our own sorrows? The air thickened with anticipation as a palpable understanding passed among them. The path to freedom was paved with both light and darkness, joy intertwined with sorrow. Was freedom truly found in relinquishing specific fears? Or was the ultimate challenge to examine the roots of their identification with those fears, wrestling with them until they transformed into something new? Miriam's thoughts stumbled over one another as she felt the mystical threads of her history intertwining with the moment. It is not enough to speak of fear, she mused aloud. We must also speak of what we desire to reclaim in this freedom. What joys, what hopes lie beneath our shadows? Who do we become when we strip away the expectations and fears? The silence that followed was thick with contemplation, hearts reaching for the horizon of potential. As darkness blanketed them, the first stars flickered in the sky, bringing a glimmer of guidance and mystery. What hidden desires lay waiting to emerge? Would they find the courage to embrace their authentic selves, their full humanity amidst the shadows? All these questions lingered in the air, unanswered yet rich with possibility, a testament to the transformation that lay ahead. As the stars twinkled above, the Israelites stood united in an atmosphere both reverent and charged with possibility. Each face glowed under the celestial tapestry, reflections of the flickering campfires that danced like the spirit within them. A deep yearning for liberation pulsed through the gathering, intertwining their fears and hopes, anchoring them to one another. Moses, sensing the profound shift in the hearts around him, raised his hands to quiet the murmurs. My people, he began, voice resonating with the weight of ancient truths, as we stand on the brink of this shared journey, we must acknowledge the deep-rooted fears that hold us. Yet, we must also open ourselves to the profound potential of who we might become. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves as if responding to his words. Will we dare to abandon what we have always known? He continued, looking into the eyes of those before him. Each gaze revealed the longing for something greater, an awakening which had been stirring silently for too long. It was then that Reuben, a man known for his tentative nature, stepped forward. I have listened and learned, he said, his voice wavering like a flame on the cusp of extinguishing, and I begin to see that my chains are not only those forged by others but also those I have crafted myself. I have clung to my fears, believing them to be shields, but they are the very walls that confine me. His revelation rippled through the crowd, awakening an unsettling realization. To abandon their fears meant confronting the familiar, the comforting, and stepping out into an unknown void filled with potential. As murmurs of agreement rose, it became evident that they stood at the precipice, both terrified and exhilarated. Miriam felt the urgency mount within her. What if, she suggested cautiously, we name the specific things we must abandon? What are the fears that suffocate our spirits and stall our steps? Her words hung in the air, electrifying, demanding action. Suddenly, Oda interjected with fervor, I must abandon the fear of voicing my dreams. I have lived in silence for too long, becoming an echo of others' ambitions rather than nurturing my own. Her breast heaved with emotion, her eyes ablaze with the fire of newfound courage. The group began to speak, an outpouring of confessions cascading forth. Each declaration was a brick removed from their self-made walls. Thomas, a quiet man often overlooked, raised his voice with newfound strength. I must let go of bitterness, the bitterness that has grown from betrayal and neglect. It has crept into my heart, and I refuse to let it dictate my journey any longer. I in the heart of the circle, hearts cracked open, revealing poignant truths. Each spoken fear became a confession not only of what they abandoned but also of what awaited them on the other side. They uncovered a tapestry of unfulfilled dreams, long-forgotten passions, and aspirations stifled by doubt, revealing the vibrancy of life that lay just beneath the surface. I must abandon my fixation on the judgment of others, Caleb admitted, his voice rising with determination. I have lived my life through their eyes, shackled by their perceptions, instead of embracing the man I am destined to be. As these voices echoing off the edges of the sphere encircling them, the air thickened with profound anticipation. Each confession of abandonment was a stepping stone towards spiritual freedom, an act of courage that generated a magnetic energy, propelling them into a shared destiny. Moses absorbed the moment as a wave of collective aspiration enveloped them. And what happens, he asked ponderously, when we abandon the comfort of the familiar in pursuit of our freedom? What will we find in that desolation? Will we unearth our deepest selves or confront a void we are unprepared to navigate? The question loomed, heavy with uncertainty, as the night deepened around them. No immediate answers came, only a shared resolve to wrestle with these fears, not as isolated souls but as a community willing to embrace both the chaos and the beauty of their transformation. In that moment, illuminated by the starlight and the flames, they stood at the crossroads. Were they ready to face the shadows of their past, leaving behind the weight of what they had always known? What truths lay beneath the surface that they had yet to confront? Would the act of dismantling their fears lead them to a brighter horizon or deeper mysteries? As the stars bore witness to their unfolding journey, all they had were questions that echoed in the depths of their hearts, ready to be answered or perhaps, ready to be lived. As the first light of dawn broke, spilling soft hues of oranges and pinks across the horizon, a sense of urgency lingered in the air. The Israelites, gathered in the encampment, felt a palpable tension as they prepared to embrace this pivotal moment. The campfires had dimmed to glowing embers, signifying not just the closing of a night filled with confessions but the dawning of a new chapter in their lives. Moses stood once more at the heart of the assembly, his presence like a guiding flame amidst the growing light. Today, he proclaimed, we shall begin to act upon our declarations, our yearning for the promise ahead. But let us first remember that in this act of abandonment, strength will be summoned not by mere words, but through a shared commitment to each other and to the higher calling that draws us. As his words cascaded into the crowd, Miriam interjected with an idea sparked by the night before. What if we lay out our fears in a ritual, casting them into the depths of the river? We can walk toward the water, one by one, acknowledging our burdens in the presence of our community before releasing them to God. Her suggestion resonated deeply, echoing through the hearts of those present. The river, a lifeline that flowed ceaselessly, looked almost alive, beckoning them to surrender their shackles to its currents. The thought of cleansing their spirits through the act of letting go stirred a sense of reverence and faded hesitation. Reuben spoke again, now with the strength of collective belief fortifying his voice. I will go first. I wish to cast away my disbelief, which has lingered like a shadow in my mind, taunting my every step. The others rallied around him as he approached the riverbank, his heartbeat sinking with the soft murmur of the water as he gently cupped his hands in its cool embrace. I release you, he said, allowing the river to carry his doubt away. Oda followed suit, her heart racing with the thrill of vulnerability. I abandon my silence, which has stifled my spirit for far too long. With that proclamation, she released her fears into the flow, watching as they became distant ripples, swallowed by the infinite depths. Each soul took their turn, revealing their innermost burdens to the rushing water, and though the process was both cleansing and cathartic, an unmistakable weight lingered in the atmosphere. As they stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the glistening river carry away their fears, a sense of unity emerged, a tapestry of shared pain, hope, and resolutions. Yet beneath the newfound vulnerability lingered the specter of unvoiced concerns. In the distance, clouds gathered, dark and foreboding. Thomas felt a shiver as he gazed toward the horizon and broke the silence. What if we are met by stormy waters? What if the very freedom we seek comes with trials we are unprepared for? A murmur of tension rippled through the crowd, the unpredictable essence of their journey loomed before them. Caleb, remaining steadfast, spoke steadily. We know that storms are part of nature, yet every storm brings nourishment and new beginnings. But what if we are tested beyond our expectations? Moses sensed the shifting tides of emotion, and with a contemplative gaze, he called the assembly to focus once more. The fears we have laid bare have been real, and the rivers we face may be treacherous. But remember this, within all uncertainty lies the chance for transformation, a chance to create something beautiful from the remnants of our past. The weight of their confessions hung thick in the air, creating a quilt of uncertainty and determination. With willing hearts, they prepared to step beyond the riverbank into whatever awaited them, a path laden with mysteries yet to be uncovered, but the morning light, which had initially brought clarity, now penned questions anew. What awaited them beyond the horizon, in the uncharted territory of spiritual freedom? Would the revelations they had shared fortify them against the storms, or would they find themselves adrift in an unfamiliar sea? As they stood at the edge of their endeavor, the answers remained hidden, entrusted to time and the courage they collectively summoned. As the assembly lingered by the river, the cool breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it a sense of anticipation and a hint of foreboding. The murmurs of uncertainty had not dissipated, instead, they hung like mist over the crowd, drawing out the deeper fears that accompanied their hopes for freedom. Each individual had cast their burdens into the water, yet the weight of the unknown still pressed upon their shoulders with renewed determination. Moses called for silence once more, his eyes scanning the faces of his people. "We stand at the precipice of transformation," he said. "But let us not forget the lessons of our past. To move forward, we must also contemplate what we must release beyond mere fears. Are there habits, thoughts, or even relationships that bind us still?" Lydia, her voice barely above a whisper, broke the tension. "It is not just fear I wish to let go of. I hold on to anger toward those who have wronged me. I have nurtured it like a wounded creature, afraid to let it go lest I be left vulnerable." Her honesty struck a chord, igniting a ripple of introspection among the assembly. What if we are meant to relinquish more than we realize? Someone from the back questioned, sparking curiosity. What if what we need to abandon transcends our own burdens? What if it includes our attachment to familiarity, to moments that have defined us but may weigh us down now? The crowd murmured in agreement, the air thickening with a palpable energy. They were no longer just casting off fears but grappling with aspects of their very identities. Marcus stepped forward, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "There are voices in my mind, reminders of past failures that haunt my pursuit of purpose. I must not only cast off expectations but also the hurt caused by my own shortcomings. I have clung to those like a cloak, believing them to be a part of me." A hush fell over the assembly as each person began to reflect on their own emotional ties. Some clung to memories of joy that had since turned to chains, while others faced the specter of guilt that clung to their hearts. The river shimmered invitingly, yet it also beckoned them into a deeper, more challenging commitment. In that moment, Miriam stepped back to the water's edge, her mind alive with thoughts. "Perhaps we should share these burdens aloud as we release them to the current. In the act of naming them, we can strip them of their power over us." The suggestion seemed to awaken something within the crowd. One by one, they ventured to the river, not only to cast away fears but to scream their grievances into the world, a purging unlike any ritual they had known. Each utterance became a living testimony to their desire for spiritual liberation. "I release my pride and the belief that I am invincible," shouted Anna, her voice mingling with the rush of water. "I let go of the chains of my past that keep pulling me back," echoed Jonah, his declaration resonating through the gathering. As they confronted the very essence of what inhibited their progress, the river transformed into a channel not only of release but also of collective resolve. Yet, even as this ritual of letting go evolved, the ominous clouds began to roll in thicker, casting deep shadows upon the gathering. The air grew charged, electric with an unspoken fear. With every chain they hoped to break, a storm may arise in its stead, a test of the resolve they were building together. Will our surrender yield blessings, or will we face the consequences of our abandon? What if we strip ourselves bare, and in doing so, expose our vulnerabilities to forces beyond our control? A voice echoed from the gathering, embodying the worries of many. Moses, sensing the rising tide of trepidation, raised his hands to calm the assembly's spirit. "Fear may be the first visitor on this journey, but resilience will be our guide. Every storm will test our strength, but it is in the test that our true selves emerge." As they held each other's gaze, a shared realization settled upon them. The road ahead may be full of obscured pathways, trials that loomed like shadows, yet their courage and unity would be the light guiding them through the dark. Each one had the power to choose what they would carry forward and what they would relinquish to the depths. In this moment of collective vulnerability, they stood united before the river, their hearts entwined in anticipation and apprehension. What storms might arise from their choices, and how will their communal courage shape the very landscape of their journey? What if the act of surrendering more than fears may lead to revelations that would redefine their understanding of freedom? The answers, like the storm itself, remained hidden just beyond the horizon, waiting to be revealed. As dawn's light broke over the horizon, illuminating the gathered Israelites, a collective heartbeat pulsed through the air, a rhythm of trepidation and hope intertwined. In the space where the river met the fading shadows of night, the assembly stood poised on the edge of something monumental, uncertain of the test that lay ahead. Moses, his gaze sweeping over the faces of his people, felt the weight of their shared journey resting heavily upon his shoulders. My friends, he began, his voice echoing with the strength of conviction, we have stripped ourselves bare, albeit through pain and vulnerability. Yet in this act of courage, we have unlocked the gates to a profound revelation, a path towards spiritual freedom. Miriam stepped forward, emboldened by the unbreakable thread of togetherness woven amongst them. We have confronted our fears, shared our burdens, and cast away the chains that bind us. But remember, freedom does not arrive without trial, and our fortitude may soon be put to the test. The murmurs of agreement that swept through the crowd were laced with an undercurrent of anxiety. With her heart steeped in anticipation, she raised her arms high, calling forth the strength that simmered just beneath the surface. Let us prepare ourselves. The rivers we have entered, both shared and personal, have the power to cleanse and reveal, yet they may also bring challenges we have yet to envision. At that moment, the wind howled fiercely, as if the heavens themselves were responding to Miriam's words. Dark clouds rolled across the sky, ominous yet charged with possibilities. Thomas, his voice trembling, recalled the atmospheric cues not only of a storm brewing but also the echoes of their collective relinquishing reverberating through the fabric of the universe. In casting our burdens into the river, we declared our commitment to transcend the chains of our past, he spoke, urgency creeping into his tone. Yet what if the storm symbolizes the chaos of transformation, the very essence of divine rebirth? Moses nodded, understanding the weight of the analogy. Indeed, Thomas. Each storm can be a catalyst, a furious force that challenges our resolve but ultimately brings growth and new beginnings. Trust that the trials we face shall be our path toward understanding the true nature of our call. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning cleaved the sky, illustrating the volatility around them. Gasps erupted, hearts raced, but within each soul ignited the fire of resilience. The Israelites instinctively huddled closer, drawing upon one another's strength as the wind surged, bending the trees toward the tumultuous clamor of change. Remember. Moses raised his voice above the cacophony. It is courage, not the absence of fear, that ignites transformation. We can weather the storm together, fortified by our revelations, embodying the commitment to liberate ourselves from the shackles of expectation and self-doubt. In that pivotal moment, the clouds burst open, rain cascading in a torrential downpour, soaking them to the bone. Yet surprisingly, within the coldness and chaos, laughter erupted, the joyous sound mingling with the rain as though it were part of the divine orchestration. And so, they danced in the storm like joyful children reclaiming their birthright of life amidst the deluge. Miriam twirled, her voice bursting forth in song, resonating through the stormy symphony. This is our freedom. This is the awakening of the spirit. With every note, they felt the weight lift, the collective burdens drowning beneath the powerful current of acceptance and love. They laughed not just because of the release but because they found beauty amidst the trials, a new understanding that life lay not merely in quiet satisfaction but in vibrant struggles that summoned forth resilient hearts. As the storm raged on, it unveiled a deeper understanding of the journey they were on. The rainy winds carried whispers of hope and renewed faith, within the chaos lay the promise of rebirth. The Israelites felt their spirits intertwining intimately, their fears dissolving and transforming into the very essence of unity. When the storm finally subsided and the sun emerged from behind the brooding clouds, the land sparkled. Each raindrop glistened like the prayers of years, pulling into a world of potential, a land waiting for them to step into existence. They stood together along the riverbank, weary yet invincible, transformed by their willingness to embrace the storm, confront their deepest fears, and lean into their communal strength. Moses, Miriam whispered, her heart soaring with the realization of newfound clarity, this radiant dawn is proof that in the depths of our trials, we find the most splendorous revelations. Yes, Moses replied, his weary eyes lighting with joy, we have discovered truth and been refined as gold through the fire. The struggles we face do not define us, instead, they shape us into the beings we are destined to become. And so, standing united as one spirit, they approached their promised land not as fractured souls bound by chains, but as a vibrant collective having surrendered their fears, embraced the storm, and awoken to the majestic possibilities of liberation. In the quiet aftermath of the storm, as the sun beamed down brightly upon them, the profound truth resonated within each heart. They were not mere individuals navigating life alone, but part of a divine tapestry woven in resilience and fight, a vivid symphony ready to echo through generations to come. Forever altered by their journey, the Israelites stepped forward boldly into every unknown that lay ahead, gateways of exploration stretching infinitely before them. The miraculous intertwining of their lives signified that true spiritual freedom is found not only in the act of shedding chains but in the beauty of community, courage, and the unwavering faith that illuminated the darkest hours. In this sacred space of awakening, where the echoes of the storm had morphed into the chorus of the dawn, they carried with them a mighty revelation. Freedom was not merely for themselves, but a calling to be shared, sung, and lived in the world around them, forever transforming all who dared to walk the path of enlightenment. And in this truth, they would find not only themselves, but each other, as they stepped forth into the life waiting to be embraced.